We're going to be looking at how to determine the probability that an offspring is going to have certain characteristics based on what its parents' characteristics are like. So for example, a question might ask you, the inheritance of fur colour in mice is controlled by a single gene. White fur is recessive, grey fur is dominant. Two mice that are heterozygous for the fur colour gene mate. A. Determine the probability that the offspring will have grey fur, and B. Determine the ratio of white fur to grey fur offspring. So there's a really important information in this question that we should identify first of all. The first bit is that white fur is recessive. That's really important because it tells us that it's going to be a lowercase letter allele, and it tells us that grey fur is dominant, so it's going to be an uppercase allele. It then tells us that the two mice that are mating are heterozygous, which means that they have got one of each type of allele. So we need to, using that information, determine the probability that the offspring will have grey fur. And this is actually a lot easier than it sounds. The very first thing that we do when we do this is we determine the genotype of the parents. So we know that there's going to be a male parent and there's going to be a female parent, and it tells us in the question that both parents are heterozygous, which means that they've got one dominant and one recessive allele. So I use the letter A there because capital A and lowercase a are easy to distinguish from one another. You can use any letters that you want as long as they're easy to distinguish. Again, we can see that because A is capital, it's the dominant allele, and this means that it is going to be the grey fur, and lowercase a is for the white fur because it's recessive. So we know that capital A is grey, lowercase a is white. Okay, after we've done that, we then create a Punnett square. So we split the alleles and create the Punnett square. So that looks a little bit like this. And what we do is we put the male alleles into the top two boxes and the female on the left like this. So male, we've got capital A and little a. So in one box we put capital A, in one box we put little a. And in the female we do the same thing, capital A and a little a. So we've split the alleles and we've put them into a Punnett square like this. So after we've done that, we then, number 3, determine possible combinations. And we do that like this. We take the A from this box and the A from this box and put them both into this box. So that is one possible combination. Again, we can do the same here. That's another possible combination. We can do it for this box. That's a possible combination. And this is also a possible combination. So we can see that the possible combinations are capital A, capital A, capital A, small a, capital A, small a, and two small a's. So the possible combinations for this Punnett square are capital A, capital A, capital A, lowercase a, capital A, lowercase a, and two lowercase a's. So after we've done that, we can then calculate the percentage for each combination. So if it takes up one of these boxes, it's 25%. So capital A is 25%. Capital A small a is 50% because it takes up 2 of the 4 boxes. And lowercase a is 25% as well here. So after we've determined that percentage for each combination, we can now answer our first question, determine the probability that the offspring will have grey fur. So, grey fur, it tells us, is dominant. So that means any situation where there is a capital A, there is going to be grey fur. And there's 1, 2, 3 here out of 4 where there is grey fur. So there is a 75% probability of grey fur. And then for B, it tells us determine the ratio of white fur to grey fur offspring. Well, for white fur, we have got 1 box out of the 4. And then for grey fur, we've got 3 boxes out of the 4. So our ratio is 1 white fur to 3 grey fur offspring.